Okay, it's 9 o'clock. We'll get started here. Again, welcome everyone. Welcome members. Good morning. My name is John Von Paris, and I am the chairman of the MDTA Finance Committee. I hereby call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order at 9 a.m. In accordance with the live streaming law, this meeting is being conducted via video conference and is being live streamed on the MDTA Finance Committee webpage. All members will have their video active during the entirety of the meeting to minimize background noise during the call. I would ask that everyone on the line please mute your phones except when speaking. I ask that those who are presenting or answering a question to please turn your video and audio on when speaking. When you are done, please turn your video off and put your audio on mute. There are no members of the public, no elected officials, and no media who are pre-registered to comment at this morning's meeting. At this time, we will begin with agenda item number 1, the approval of the minutes from our last meeting.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The minutes are approved. Thank you. We will move to agenda item number 2, contract MA 28680000. Joe, you're here for the presentation.
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
My name is Joe Quattrone. I'm the ETC program manager. Today, MDTA now seeks approval for the second contract modification to extend the end dates of the contract and add additional time to the contract phases, which combined pushes the original term out 214 days. I'm going to provide a summary of the reasoning behind this request. Punch list items. Hold on one sec. I am on, sorry, I'm not showing myself. Okay. So punch list items remain for phase 1, 2, and 3. The contractor has commenced and continues to complete software releases to resolve punch list items with planned release dates. As a result, another time extension modification is necessary to further extend time and completion dates for phase 1, 2, and 3, and the respective punch list and final system acceptance items. This is necessary due to additional work being added to the project, including performing tasks for multiple legislatively mandated activities, performing various externally requested data queries, and extending the customer assistance plan, and also addressing MDTA assigned work orders. MDTA is requesting the date be changed to October 31, 2023 for all punch list items and any outstanding final system acceptance items to be corrected and completed to MDTA's satisfaction. This modification is also necessary to align the 2 electronic tolling contracts. That would be MA 2257, which is the CAPSH lane side vendor, and MA 2868 Transcore, which is the back office vendor, so that they both have the same contract end date of February 28, 2028. Additional funding is needed to complete phase 4, years 1 and 2 of the contract due to the alignment of the 2 electronic tolling contracts, coupled with a higher volume of accounts than what was anticipated. And additional funding will be needed in the future for phase 4, years 3 through 6, but this modification does not include years 3 through 6. This mod will add $44,317,717.58 of new funds to the 6-year base term of the contract, resulting in a revised contract amount of $307,853,301.37 for the 6-year base term. This modification will require approval by the Board of Public Works. And that is the summary of the mod in total. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, Joe, just one quick question. So do we know relative to the expanded amount? So a portion of that is relative to because we're adding days, and a portion of that is because of the customer assistance program plan and other delays and the other matters that were associated with the project. We know the breakdown of this amount between what was due to the extraneous matters that were unexpected at the beginning of the contract versus just because we're expanding the time horizon of the contract.
I think that it's a combination of work requests that we didn't initially anticipate, that we asked the back office vendor to perform for the year of 2022. Things such as the CP waiver program. Along with that, we did like multiple correspondence type, we call them task orders, which required the back office vendor TransCore to, stop working on or at least slow them working on punch list items to do these MDTA requested activities. Like the CP waiver program also had an Act Now correspondence where we were encouraging customers to, while we had this waiver program going on, encouraging them to pay their NOTDs and get the advantage of waiving the civil penalties. We did the SB 59 refunds for civil penalties. That was a legislative mandate. On-the-go program changes. That was a large program to which had customers when they purchased on-the-go transponders to register first. So all this spanned like several months in parallel. A lot of these activities were in parallel and spanned several months, 5 to 10 months each. So that all kind of dug into the vendor's ability to focus on things that we had identified as punch list items. Those were most of why the extension is required, because they just haven't finished up their punch list items.
Can I jump in here real quick, Joe?
Yeah,
I want to clarify to make sure we're clear here. So if you recall, this contract was broken up into phases. You have phases 1, 2, 3 that essentially get you an acceptance to where you're in operations and maintenance mode, which is phase 4. This mod is adding time only for phases 1, 2, and 3 for all of that task order work that Joe just described, because we already had authorization in the contract for the funds that did those additional task orders. Joe, my recollection was the task orders for the on-the-go program, SB 59, all the things that he mentioned there, some of them legislatively mandated, some of them things that we directed to do based on things like we sent out Act Now letters. You may recall during the customer assistance plan, a lot of work that we wanted to do to engage customers to make sure they took advantage of the civil penalty waiver program. So that phase 1, 2, and 3 is for time only. That's to allow them time to finish punch list stuff because we asked them to do other work. There's no compensation for that time. Phase 4, the additional time, is to align the end dates of the contract for CAPS and the contract for TransCore, since the two contracts run in tandem. We previously did not give TransCore that additional time because they had not reached system acceptance yet. And so now we're adding that time. And for that time, for phase 4, There is future work that they'll perform, and that's what the additional money is covering. So none of the money that we're adding is for things like the legislatively mandated stuff, et cetera. That's just simply time only. When you get into phase 4, the operations and maintenance, that additional time that we're adding to align the contracts, we must add the corresponding funding for that time to complete the work for things like, managing Easy Pass accounts and mailing notices of toll due, et cetera. So it's a little confusing because by adding time, when you're talking about adding time, because the contract is broken up into phases, when we say we're adding time, some of the time is to phases 1, 2, and 3, and some of the time is for phase 4. But when you're really talking about the money, it's for phase 4, and that's for future work that's not even performed yet.
Thanks, Will.
Thanks. Thank you.
Well, just to confirm, you said, I guess they diverted some resources to handle some additional work for us as well. I mean, you mentioned that, right? And then it's an extension for 7 months and an alignment with CAPSH.
Mhm.
You there? Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay. Thank you for the very good questions here and discussion. Okay, if no other questions, is there a motion to advance this to the full board for consideration? We have a motion. Is there a second?
Member Ardinger, I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay. Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, members.
Thank you. And thank you, Joey.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Will. We will move on to the next agenda item, number 3, the fiscal year 2024 final operating budget. Jeffrey Brown will present. Good morning, Jeffrey.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Jeffrey Brown, Budget Director of the MDTA. I'm here today to request a recommendation of approval to the full board for the fiscal year 2024 final operating budget. The proposed operating budget is $400.1 million, which represents an $8.7 million or a 2.2% increase versus the preliminary budget. The key drivers are increased personnel costs for civilian and sworn employees, a cost shift from fiscal year 23 to 24 for motor vehicle purchases, and increased Easy Pass service center costs. In looking at this detail, we break it out into 3 basic variances. We have mandated increases, we have discretionary additions, and discretionary reductions. You can see the mandated increases are $9.2 million, the additions are $3.1 million, and the reductions are $3.6 million. So the net discretionary impact is a reduction of $500,000. As mentioned, the mandated changes are $9.2 million. They're broken up into salary adjustments, which account for $5.2 million. This is broken into a longevity step, which is $2.1 million impact, a 2% cost of living adjustment, which is worth $1.7 million, and employee reclassification adjustments totaling $1.4 million. In addition, we have the employees' health and retirees' health insurance, which accounts for $1.5 million increase, the pension system $1.3 million, and the law enforcement's pension system of $0.7 million. Those 3 are primarily the result of DBM rate changes provided to us in December. In addition, we have an on-time step increase, which accounts for $0.7 million, and a reduction in Maryland State Police of $0.2 million. As mentioned, the operating budget has a net impact of $0.5 million reduction. The key variances are the supply chain delays, as mentioned above, for motor vehicle purchases from fiscal 23 to fiscal 24, and that was worth $1.3 million. Easy Pass Service Center cost increased $1 million due to an increased forecasted volume for the unregistered video toll accounts. Management and consultants had a $0.3 million increase due to consultant work around improving the customer experience. Additional building equipment and maintenance had a cost shift of $0.2 million from fiscal 23 to 24 due to the auto shop renovation being moved to this fiscal year 24 for the Nice Middleton Bridge. Following have minor increases, medical care, Easy Pass transponders, and contractual employee step increases. Each one of them were worth $0.1 million. Engineers had a decrease of $0.2 million. This is due to the planning expenses for Tier 1 of the National Environmental Policy Act for the Bay Bridge crossing were charged to operating expense. We are now moved to Tier 2, which is capital in nature, so this results in a reduction for those engineers for the operating budget. Easy Pass retail fees decreased $1 million. This is based on current year spending and our expected estimated transaction volumes for fiscal 24. Turnover increased or really decreased a bigger credit of $2.3 million, and that's due to personnel cost changes and the updated salary forecast. All other changes came to a $0.1 million decrease. Moving on, as you can see in Figure 1, the PIN count remained the same from the preliminary budget. Finally, Figure 2 breaks out the various fundings by division and by purpose. That concludes my presentation. Be happy to take any questions at this time.
Are there any questions? Okay, Member Ardinger?
Oh, I just wanted to recognize and thank everyone that, mandated increases. There's not much you can do about that. And so I appreciate the fact that you worked that into your budget and at the same time we had to result in a decrease in other areas. So thank you.
Sure.
I echo those comments. I do have a question. You mentioned the supply chain delays with vehicle purchasing and so forth. Just to be interested in knowing if the supply chain, the delays with vehicle purchasing, does that drive our maintenance cost up, or does it push us on our vehicles out of warranty? In other words, that's just a question I have on that.
Yeah, I don't think I can give you a definitive answer. I think that's, impacts that can occur. I mean, that certainly can occur. I do know that we have purchased quite a few new vehicles in the, not in the near past, which actually kind of drives maintenance costs down a little bit because of coverage under warranty, things of that nature. So you have a mixed impact of how old your vehicles are and things of that nature that can, you have a bunch of puts and takes. So I couldn't answer directly, but certainly as you age out with your vehicles and you keep delaying purchasing new ones, I would assume that would increase maintenance costs. We haven't seen that yet, but that could be a possibility.
Yeah, Jeff, let me add a little bit here on this one, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So most of the vehicles that were purchased in this last year were as a result of the CBA with the MDTA police and FOP, where we were purchasing new vehicles for our CDT officers and for sergeants. That was part of the collective bargaining. And so these were not replacement vehicles for existing fleet. They were new purchases to comply with the new CBA agreement. So I don't think, for that reason, Member Von Paris, I don't think that we've incurred any additional warranty lapses or maintenance costs yet for those new vehicles and any consequences to the older fleet.
I guess I was thinking more of the heavy trucks, like the Class B trucks, like for that, because sometimes when the bulk purchase, probably through, I guess, the MDOT or however it's done, they give a bumper to bumper, for so many years so that your maintenance, you already have it. But we did something different a little bit. I mean, in terms of we've been impacted by the supply chain. I'm just wondering how else it impacted us besides the delay in purchasing, but also did it impact our increase in maintenance cost with big equipment, heavy equipment. And also, when that happens, if you have a warranty, it pushes it beyond the warranty, which we plan for. That's all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I think you answered.
Well, those are all good questions. Just one thing I would note, though, is when you talk about large truck purchases, in some case that may be capital because they're so expensive and it doesn't wind up hitting the operating budget. So it just depends on the individual thing.
Okay,
And I just happen to know that most of the supply chain issues that we had were actually not with those bigger vehicles. It was with those police because of the volume of the police cars that we had to get at one time. That was a challenge for the manufacturers. And secondly, we've had some challenges with getting EV vehicles just again due to supply chain. So both of which are new purchases, not replacements.
okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, is there a motion to advance this item to the full board for approval?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Member Ardinger, I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, members. And Jeffrey, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We will go to item number 4, and I believe Jennifer will be presenting today on behalf of Jeannie. Hi, Jennifer. How are you?
Hi, good afternoon. How are you?
Good. Thank you.
So I'm Jennifer Stump, the Assistant Capital Program Manager. Today, I'm presenting the proposed fiscal year 24 to 29 draft CTP and seeking your recommendation for approval. This was presented to the Capital Committee on June 1st and will be presented to the full board for final approval on June 29th of 2023. The 6-year fiscal year 2024 to 2029 budget in the proposed CTP is $2.7 billion. The proposed CTP reflects a net increase in the 6-year fiscal year 2024 to 2029 budget of $169.7 million, as seen in Attachment 1, Line 6. Please refer to Attachment 1 for the reasons for the increase. Looking at Attachment 1, Line 1 shows a decrease in the 6-year CTP budget by $19.1 million for the Nice Middleton Bridge. Line 2 shows a decrease in the 6-year CTP budget by $7 million for the I-95 ETL Northern Extension. Line 3 shows an increase in the 6-year CTP budget by $178 million for all projects except the Nice Middleton Bridge, the I-95 ETL Northern Extension, and the reserves. Line 4 shows an increase in the allocated and unallocated reserves by $17.9 million. Line 5 shows an increase in the 6-year CTP budget by $196 million for all projects and reserves except the Nice Middleton Bridge and the I-95 ETL Northern Extension. Line 6 shows the overall net increase in the 6-year CTP budget by $169.7 million. Looking at Attachment 2, for new projects added, 9 system preservation projects were added for an increase of $6.6 million in the fiscal year 24 to 29 period. For modified budgets to reflect bids received, 1 project was adjusted to reflect bids received that were lower than the engineer's estimates for a net decrease of $7 million. For added to the construction phase, the construction phase of 4 projects was funded for a total of $114.9 million transferred from the reserves as design reached 60% level and cost estimates were developed on fully developed scopes. For modified budgets to reflect completed projects, 25 projects were completed and 1 deleted with no budget change in the fiscal year 24 to 29 period. For modified active projects due to cost changes and cash flow adjustments, adjusted cash flows and funded changes in engineering and or construction budgets for 50 projects for a net budget increase of $37.3 million. For reserve changes, the allocated reserves increased by $13.9 million and the unallocated reserves increased by $4 million. The budget for the projects combined with the reserve changes show the net increase in the fiscal year 24 to 29 time period is $169.7 million, which matches the total change on line 6 of Attachment 1. Looking at attachment 3, this pie chart reflects the locations of the 2.7 billion proposed draft CTP. 36% at Kennedy Highway, 17% in multi-area projects, 13% at the Bay Bridge, 11% at Harbor Tunnel, 8% at Fort McHenry Tunnel, 8% at the Key Bridge, 3% at the Hayden Bridge, and 3% at the ICC. Looking at attachment 4, this pie chart reflects the categories of the 2.7 billion proposed draft CTP. Is 31% in structural preservation, 30% in safety and capacity improvements, 14% in highway preservation, 7% in enhancements, 4% in bridge replacements, 4% in campus facility preservation, 4% in campus facility improvements, 3% in tunnel preservation, 2% in environmental projects, and 1% in unallocated reserves. And we are seeking your recommendation for approval to take it to the full board later this month.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions from any board members?
Yeah, just one question, Jennifer. So I appreciate the update for the increase. And I guess I see there's some new projects in there. Any idea for the increase? How much of that is due to inflation versus new projects that we've identified?
I do not have the information about the inflation versus the new projects, but I can find that out and get back to you guys.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious, not that down to the penny, but just order of magnitude. How much? What are we experiencing, particularly for our capital projects related to the inflationary environment?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Is there a motion to advance this item to the full board for consideration?
Member Ardinger also move.
A second, Member Carroll.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, members. Jennifer, thank you for your presentation. Good job. Thank you. Okay, we will move on to the next agenda item. Number 5, financial forecast. Chantel Green.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chantel.
Good morning. Again, Chantel Green. I am the Director of Finance here at the Authority, and I am here to present the fiscal year 2024 to 2029 financial forecast for your approval. In a moment, I'll discuss the primary differences between the current forecast and the forecast that was presented to you in November of 2022. However, before doing so, I'd like to direct your attention to the key takeaways on page 33 of your materials. You'll note that through fiscal year 2027, the Authority remains in compliance with its financial goals and legal standards, and that based on current forecast estimates, beginning in fiscal year 2028, a system-wide toll increase will be necessary to maintain 2 times debt service coverage throughout the remainder of the forecast period. As I will discuss in a moment, the actual timing of the toll increase will depend on many factors. Tolls were last increased in fiscal year 2014, followed by a reduction of tolls in fiscal year 2016. Turning to the next page, the primary differences between the current forecast and the most recently approved forecast are outlined beginning at the top of the page. First, there's an $11 million increase in revenue throughout the forecast period. The increase in revenue is primarily due to projected favorable investment earnings from the TIFIA loan draw, as well as reimbursement funding for law enforcement services performed on behalf of the airport and the Port Police. Next, operating budget expenses increased by 58 million throughout the forecast period. This is mostly due to cost of living adjustments as well as employee pay increments that are compounded in future years. As Jennifer noted, capital expenses increased by 169.7 million throughout the period. This amounts to a net $120 million increase after accounting for the anticipated rollover of unexpended funds from fiscal year 2023 into subsequent fiscal years. Bond issuances increased by 175 million over the forecast period due to a decline in net revenues, which results in less pay-go or cash funding available for capital spending. Lastly, based on forecast estimates, beginning in fiscal year 2028, a system-wide toll increase will be necessary to maintain 2 times debt service coverage throughout the remainder of the forecast period. The actual timing of a toll increase will depend on many factors that impact the authority's financial standards, such as inflationary pressures, deferred maintenance policies, toll revenue attainment, mandated operating budget increases, as well as debt issuance costs and timing. And that reflects the major changes in the forecast. I'd be happy to respond to any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the members? I just have a comment. I guess it is customary in this industry, the tolling industry, to, from time to time, this comes up and in terms of an increase. And, you know, when with the drivers being, you know, the thing, you know, inflation, maintenance, all, we can make a long list of that. But, and also, I guess, the forecaster estimates, but supported by good data and good information and a lot of experience in this industry. So, but I know a lot of work goes behind this, and thank you for that work and boiling it all down and for us so that we can understand it and review it. So I thank you for that, Chantel.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay. If there are no other questions at this time, is there a motion to advance this to the full board for further consideration?
Move.
Okay, Member Rosen, thank you. Is there a second? Member Carroll, thank
Second,
you.
Member Carroll.
Thank you, Member Carroll. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we will move on to the next item. And Chantel will remain there giving a report. And the that is an update on the biannual revenue, a review of revenue sufficiency. So thank you.
Thank you. The MDTA's board operating policy requires a biannual review of revenue sufficiency to determine if current rate and fee levels are appropriate based on expected levels of spending. The financial forecast that was just presented shows that the current toll rates, fees, and discounts provide enough revenue over the near term to meet forecasted spending and all legal and policy requirements. And that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay. Thank you very much, Chantel. Thank you and your team and Deb and everyone for the great work you do. We have gone through all the agenda items, and I thank everyone for their attendance today and the board members for being here. And so another important item is, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Member Carroll. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We stand adjourned. Thank you, members.
Have a great day, everybody.